Erik Magnus Lehnsherr, aka Magneto, is a character we've seen different versions of on screen as a powerful mutant supervillain who opposes Charles Xavier's X-Men. But in the X-Men 97 series, he has a different role, one that showed more of his character and abilities. In this story, after Professor Xavier's departure, Magneto emerges as a central figure in the X-Men 97 series, shouldering the responsibilities of leadership and guiding the team through the tumultuous times. This is arguably the best adapted version of Magneto, and today we're going to explore Magneto's character in terms of his transformation, his evolving perspective on coexistence, his complex relationships with the fellow X-Men, his ambitions, and his formidable powers and abilities as he steps into a prominent leadership role. Magneto's shift in perspective, from adversary to ally. We've seen countless instances of villains or antagonists changing their ways and becoming good guys after clashing with the heroes for a significant amount of time. While several memes such as the famous Naruto talk no jutsu meme make it look like a seamless transition, it's never really easy for a villain to completely change his mentality and turn over to the good side. For Magneto, the call to take over the X-Men and lead the world into a peaceful era was more of a challenge by his old friend Charles, which is exceptionally hard for him given his tragic past, where he had lost multiple loved ones due to the hatred from humans. With Xavier presumed dead, Magneto had to step in and take his spot as the leader of the X-Men, not only because he was legally entitled to it, but because he feels the profound weight of his old friend's vision and legacy. Initially, Magneto's past as a militant leader and adversary of the X-Men casts a long shadow over his new role. His first action after hearing of Xavier's passing was to start a mutant rebellion, which ended up being unsuccessful. However, the assassination attempt on Xavier and the subsequent changes forced Magneto to reflect deeply on his own beliefs and actions. He experiences an intense internal struggle between his historical stance on militant separatism and the pressing necessity for peaceful coexistence. In one scene, he tells Rogue, Xavier's sacrifice brought about a world more tolerable towards mutants. I am indebted to honor his last wish, even if his X-Men won't trust me. Perhaps they're right not to. My past is too littered with error. So we can see that he appreciates the efforts of his old friend Charles in unifying the world and feels that it's his responsibility to carry out Xavier's mission. And he's willing to do it, even while facing opposition from the very team he was sent to lead. The speech also shows that Erik fully acknowledges that his past actions weren't entirely justifiable, even if he maintains some of his old beliefs. He doesn't truly believe that Charles's dream of mutant and human coexistence is possible, which is evident in the way he sighs whenever he talks about it, but he's willing to go through with it out of respect for his old friend. Magneto wasted no time to prove his willingness to become a heroic symbol as soon as he began to save humans that were endangered. Even the reporters were shocked because for Magneto this was basically hell freezing over. Being a former mutant terrorist and someone who had been victimized by humans' hatred towards mutants, it felt unreal to see him use his powers to save humans. But this just shows his commitment to filling the shoes which Xavier left for him. Of course, Magneto would always be partial and more sympathetic towards his own kind, as he wouldn't hesitate to take action against anti-mutant groups that oppress the mutant race. He showed this when he saved the Morlocks from the Friends of Humanity, and personally comforted them by promising them a world free from fear. Magneto isn't a man to make empty promises, because after the incident, he made arrangements for the Morlocks to be transported to the mutant nation of Genosha, where they would live in a safer place and have a more peaceful life. An important thing to note about this rescue affair was that even though Magneto was fully capable of killing the race's oppressors with his powers like he used to, Magnus focused on depowering their weapons and restraining them. This once again proves that Magneto's honest intentions of refraining from his old brutal methods and pursuing a unified world through heroic gestures. As they say, actions speak louder than words. Well, he got to prove that through his actions that he was indeed prepared to change his ways, but that wasn't enough to fully convince the X-Men that he was on their side. Apparently, it wasn't enough to convince the UN as well that he had done a 360. As soon as they sent out a fully weaponized army led by Dr. Cooper to arrest Magneto for crimes against humanity, they felt that they had the upper hand as they wielded weapons that were resistant to his magnetic powers. But by taking control of their planes, Magneto proved once again that he could easily bypass the situation by killing them all. Instead, he chose to surrender and tried to prove his good intentions to the world by vindicating himself in trial. Adopting Xavier's dream, Magneto gradually transitions from a separatist to a more integrationist stance, embracing the possibility that mutants can coexist with humans. This shift is a testament to his respect for Xavier's ideals and his understanding that the survival of mutant kind may depend on peaceful coexistence rather than perpetual conflict, though he isn't fully in support of Xavier's method. After sending the Morlocks to Genosha, Magnus remarks that neither Xavier nor the X-Men thought to use their wealth to do the same, and he said that he aimed to improve how the X-Men handled mutants matter. This shows his desire to use his position as leader of the X-Men to adopt more effective measures to protect mutants, while leading the world to a peaceful era. He agreed to undergo a trial for his past actions to prove his commitment to peace, and this marks a significant evolution in his character. During the trial, Magneto poignantly explained the injustice done to mutants by humans and claimed that his actions were purely in retaliation to the cruelty shown to his kind. Being someone who has experienced humanity's cruelty towards mutants firsthand, Magneto has an understanding of humans' behavior that they even don't fully grasp. This is why when the Friends of Humanity attacked during the trial, he fully understood the situation and explained to the UN representatives that they were being targeted as well as traitors to their race for giving what they viewed as a monster a trial. But then he proved his newfound heroism again by defending the UN reps from the attackers using an electromagnetic shield, the very same people that were prepared to give him the harshest punishment possible for his past crimes. He even worked in tandem with Storm to entrap the mobsters using their abilities, but that's when things took a bitter turn. Despite Erik's intentions to follow in Xavier's footsteps, there's a part of himself that he can't just let go of. As someone who deeply sympathizes with his own kind, Magneto gets emotionally strained when he sees mutants get brutally hurt or killed. This is why when the anti-mutant agent named Executioner shot a depowering radiation blast meant for Magneto and it took the powers of Storm, Magneto lost it. Seeing Storm lying helpless on the ground broke Magneto, and he reacted in an extreme manner by lifting the entire UN board as well as the Executioner high up in the sky using his electromagnetic waves. Tears from his eyes, Magneto made a dominant speech which expressed his feelings. Bigot, ingrate, sycophant, worm. So small I could smite you with a step. There was a time I would smite you all for what was done to Storm, but today I have saved you from your own. For an old friend has challenged me to remember this view of Earth, how vast it is versus how small we make it. Charles Xavier entrusted me with his dream, and it does not ask you to love or embrace my kind as your own, but merely to accept that this is a shared world with a common future, and that my kind, like yours, has the right to live in it. I am trying to be better. Please, do not make me let you down. This speech says everything you need to know about Magneto's character. As the Executioner and the UN board were all scared for their lives, Erik teased a bit of his old self as he said that he'd normally killed them for all hurting one of his kind, but then he said that he chose to save them instead because he fully intended to adopt Xavier's dream of creating a world where humans and mutants could coexist. He begs the UN, and by extension the humans of the world, to be more civil towards mutants as he intends to become a better person and make Xavier's dream a reality. This was a big moment of development for not just Magneto's character but the world as well, because the UN ended up pardoning Magneto and making Genosha an official UN nation. And with that, Magneto had taken the first step towards creating the peaceful world that Charles dreamed of. Leadership dynamics. Assuming a leadership role. Magneto becoming the leader of the X-Men was a blessing in disguise because the man was more than capable to fit the role. He brings a unique perspective to the team. He showcased his incredible leadership skills when he rallied up the X-Men during the Goblin Queen's attack and led them into a tactical strike against her. He wasn't personally affected by Nathan's abduction. He was the first one in the team to fight the Goblin Queen in order to protect him. Well, technically, he co-leads the X-Men alongside Cyclops, which creates a dynamic leadership structure that combines strategic and tactical brilliance. Magneto and Cyclops frequently clash ideologically, with Cyclops representing a more traditional approach to Xavier's dream and Magneto bringing a pragmatic, sometimes harsh perspective. Despite their differences, both leaders learn to respect each other's strengths, with Cyclops acknowledging Magneto's strategic acumen and Magneto appreciating Cyclops' unwavering commitment to Xavier's ideals. Magneto's leadership is characterized by a blend of empathy, pragmatism, and his formidable power. In terms of raw power and ability, Magneto certainly has loads of it. He proved to be an absolute cheat code on the battlefield. His mastery over magnetism allowed him to perform incredible feats such as creating powerful EM force fields, depowering weapons, lifting massive chunks of metal such as a train and a Ferris wheel, gaining control of flight vehicles, and raising an entire asteroid. There's seemingly no limits to what Magneto can accomplish with his powers, and this enables him to have the aura of a leader. It as well enables him to make this grand displays of power that will put antagonizing factions or the entire world on notice. His powers are also instrumental in his relationship with Rogue, as it allows him to touch her physically without her powers causing any backlash. Magneto's relationship with Rogue adds depth to his character arc. Erik indeed has deep romantic feelings for Rogue, as they'd once been in a relationship. These feelings get rekindled as he reunites with her within the X-Men, and in his attempt to explain those feelings, he said to her, "Loving you makes broken men whole." This shows that he still considered himself a flawed man even though he was handpicked to be the ruler of Genosha. In fact, he said that while offering Rogue the chance to rule by his side as the Queen of Genosha. As a testament to the fact that Rogue also deeply loves Erik, she chose to accept this offer and break her boyfriend Gambit's heart. Magneto and Rogue then made a public display of their love for each other as they kissed and danced in midair in front of a mutant crowd. But that's when he faced another massive emotional twist: ambitions and internal struggles. Magneto's journey is marked by his ongoing struggle with the remnants of his old beliefs, especially when faced with severe threats to mutant kind. Threats which of course included a giant deadly sentinel bot called a Master Mold, which attacked Genosha and killed a great number of mutants on sight. Magneto's powers are a double-edged sword in these moments. While they provide him with the means to protect and lead, they also tempt him towards more brutal solutions. Being the incredible leader that he is, Magneto took charge of the situation as he instructed Rogue and Gambit to save as many lives as possible. But even good leadership wasn't enough, because the Master Mold was just too powerful. Being the compassionate hero that he is, Magneto was prepared to sacrifice himself to protect those who he cared about. When the Master Mold charged up a massive blast, Magneto protected his love of Rogue by wrapping her in some sheets of metal, while using all of his remaining energy to power up a force field to shield a young Morlock boy. His efforts ended up being futile, as the Morlock boy was vaporized along with the majority majority of the mutants that lived in Genosha. After the Genosha massacre, the world found out the hard way that Magneto had been pushed beyond his limits. After uttering a single word, enough, he emitted a massive electromagnetic pulse that sent the entire world back to the Dark Ages. He was haunted by the fact that he had failed to give the people of Genosha the peaceful life that he promised them. He reverted back to his old appearance and decided he'd create a new Genosha where mutants would live like gods, free from fear. Erik tried desperately to uphold Charles' ideals, but humanity forced him to go back to his old ways by putting him through the worst kind of pain imaginable for him, killing thousands of mutants in front of him. Once again, the only person who could truly impact change in Magnus' mind and bring him back to a heroic stance was his friend Charles Xavier. Charles snapped him back to reality by reminding him that he'd become a symbol of hope for the X-Men and the world. So Magneto, the former villain, ended up saving the world from a giant asteroid. This was a poetic ending to his character arc. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.